It's been a while since we caught up with the dog listener, and hopefully your pooch hasn't run off the rails during the time that we haven't caught up. Since my operation, I've had a lot of time at home with the Psycho Spaniel, tolerating each other. And as a result, I have a few questions to ask Tony Knight today. Hello, Tony.
Hi, Ian.
Nice to be talking to you.
And you, yeah.
I could bite my tongue off for saying it, but dogs do seem to have a compassionate side.
They do. Even your Psycho Spaniel, you will have found out.
I did discover that. Obviously, there are some benefits in having a dog. I suppose the obvious ones are for lonely people and that sort of thing, but they seem to detect illness.
They're incredibly good at that. I mean, the thing is, because their sense of smell is so much better than ours, in a way we can't even think. Changes in our biochemistry are detected by them. This is why there are dogs that can detect cancer really, really effectively, and especially dogs that are trained to alert people who have epilepsy, to let them know if they're going to have an episode up to 40 minutes before it happens. Now, that's an incredible talent they've got, and something which, of course, means that people with epilepsy can then have a normal life because they can go out and do things, and they've got like an early warning device if they're going to have an episode.
So how do the dogs alert them?
Well, what they do is they will either lick them in a certain pattern across their arm or something. They would just generally just alert their attention to this is going to happen. But the fact they can do it up to 40 minutes before it happens, it shows an incredible sensitivity. And dogs are capable of doing all sorts of things like that because of changes in biochemistry that we can't perceive. And as you've noticed, even people that have, even if they've just got a cold, if they've got the flu, they will find that the dogs act differently. Sometimes dogs will ask questions at this point because they'll sometimes go, well, okay, is everything okay? Do I have to worry about whether I've got to look after you or not? So often when you're not feeling well, that's when a dog can start to almost challenge you sometimes because they need to know that everything's all right. But, yeah, they have very acute senses.
I've heard of those cancer-sniffing dogs before. Are they a particular breed or most dogs are pretty sensitive?
It's not one breed in particular. One thing, I always say is, what we do is a dog is a dog is a dog. That's what I always say. And so I'm never surprised if it was a Cocker Spaniel that could do it, or a Springer Spaniel, or a Border Collie, or a Rottweiler. It's just that certain dogs show a propensity to let people know. I mean, no doubt we all give off these things when we're not feeling well, or even when we're just stressed as well. Those are changes in our biochemistry which dogs can pick up on and can make them react. And dogs are very good at calming us down because I think that's why we have dogs in pets as therapy. They go into places where people aren't feeling well, and as soon as the dog comes in, it's almost like nothing else matters. The dog is, the dog's an animal that lives in the now. And when we worry about things like the past and the future, which of course don't exist, we get stressed out. And the moment we start, fussing a dog or patting a dog, we forget about all that. It's a very calming influence. But I think it's something that we should do, whenever we can, providing we call the dog to us, we don't go up to the dog. But I talk about that quite often.
You certainly do. And you've mentioned emotional support. But even physically, I suppose there is an advantage in that you have to exercise. If it's a bit cold in the morning and you don't really fancy going out for a walk, the dog is going to force you because it's going to harp and harp and harp until you do.
Well, now we're getting into a completely different area because, for example, one of the things I say is you don't have to walk your dog. If we're talking about dogs that perform really useful roles in life, then dogs for the disabled. It's a great organisation in which dogs are trained to be able to, to help handicapped people who can't move about properly, who are wheelchair-bound, to have a more independent life. They help them turn the lights on or open the curtains or even get the washing out of the washing machine. But, of course, these people can't take them for a walk. But it's not a problem. When you've got a dog that actually, harps on about wanting to be taken for a walk, that's the dog making the decision, and that's why we have dogs out there who are out of control because they're the ones thinking they're responsible. So I agree with you that a dog, is a good reason for you to get out and go for a walk, but sometimes it's make sure you're taking the dog for a walk, the dog's not taking you for a walk.
So how do you get over that? Do you just ignore it for a while and then take it for a walk when you want to go?
Well, you can start to play around with it, Ian. For example, if some people can't even say the word walk.
Yes.
They can't say it without the dogs going crazy. So I get them to say the word walk until the dog doesn't react. Because what you're showing the dog is, just because you've heard that sound doesn't mean anything until we say it does. Similarly, if you get the leash out and the dog goes crazy, well, practice getting the leash out and putting it away again, and repeating that until the dog stops reacting in such an intense way. And then when the dog is calmed down, call the dog to you and put the lead on. If you can get those first steps done, then you're actually taking control of what's a very important part of the dog's life, which is, they're going out into the outside world, it's the hunt, before you've even set foot outside the door. And this is something that a lot of people miss. So by all means, have the dog as something to get you out and exercise, but make sure you're doing it correctly so you don't put the dog under any stress. And this is where we have dogs that are aggressive when they see other dogs or people or cars, because these poor things are making the decisions. And if they make the decision the moment they hear the word walk, then we're on to a hiding for nothing.
I can't wait to get home today, Tony, to send the spaniel over the edge.
You've got a sadistic streak with that dog.
I certainly have. Tony, as always, lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for your time today.
And you, Ian. I look forward to it another time.
Bye-bye. Tony Knight, the dog listener, here on 720 ABC Perth.